Okay, so we're down to the last lesson class regarding your mycology. So this time we're going to tackle opportunistic mycosis. So when you say opportunistic mycosis, to give you an idea, class, pag opportunistic mycosis, these are mycosis that do not normally, or these are fungi that do not normally infect healthy people. They can only cause disease if there is an opportunity wherein your body's immune system is weak or absent. So let me repeat. Opportunistic mycosis. This is a type of mycosis that do not normally infect healthy people. These are fungi class that would cause a disease if an opportunity would rise due to having a weak or absent immune system. So your opportunistic fungi class are usually found as members of the resident human microbiota. Meaning class they are part of your normal flora. In other words, they are normally present in the body class or they could be found as saprophytes in the environment. Now, if an individual has a breakdown of its immune system or host defense, they can cause infections ranging from skin and mucous membrane involvement to life-threatening systemic diseases. Candida and related yeast class are endogenous opportunists. When you say endogenous opportunists, they are normally found inside the body. Now, if your immune system becomes weak, these endogenous opportunists would cause disease. Other opportunistic mycosis are caused by exogenous fungi. So pag exogenous fungi naman class, these are the fungi found in the environment. They are usually found in soil, water, and air. And if you encounter them and you have a weak immune system, it can cause a opportunistic mycosis. So the coverage here will focus on the more common pathogens and the disease they cause. So meron tayong apat class na itatakel. Your candidiasis, aspergillosis, mucormycosis, and yung cryptococcus nyo. So kindly include this in the handouts class. Yung cryptococcus nyo. Let's start with the most common one, yung candidiasis. So candidiasis class is the most prevalent systemic, opportunistic rather, sorry. This is the most prevalent opportunistic mycosis. And the most common agents that are known to cause it class are your candida species, specifically albicans, parapsilosis, glabrata, tropicalis, guillermondi, dublienenses. Now, candidiasis class would occur in localized and disseminated form. Pag localized class, they are usually found in a certain part of the body. This would include erythema and white plaques class in skin folds, such as yung diaper rash. So usually sa singit class ng mga bata or sa mga immunocompromised na patient. And yung pinaka-worst, worst appearance ng candidiasis is known as your oral thrush, wherein your candida would flourish in the mouth, causing this oral thrush. Meron din siyang nagkakos class nung na your vaginal thrush. Sa vaginal thrush naman, merong erythema sa vaginal linings ng babae. Now, the morphology of Candida class is that it is able to form hyphae triggered by changes in conditions such as temperature, pH, and available nutrients. When observed in their initial stages of germination from the yeast cell, these nascent hyphae would resemble sprouts and are called germ tubes. Itong mga germ tubes na to, class. Imagine this is your candida. Your candida is in the yeast form, di ba? Now, when your candida suffers or is activated by changes in temp, it would form this so-called pseudo-hyphae. Mag-elongate yung yeast na yan, class, yung candida na yan. Forming this pseudo-hyphae, when you say pseudo, false hyphae, meaning hindi talaga siya totoong hyphae. This is not a true hyphae. Known as your germ tube. And one characteristic of candida is this germ tube class. Now, other elongated forms with restriction at regular intervals are called pseudohyphae because they lack the septation of a true hyphae. It is possible for a healthy person to have localized candidiasis, but deep disseminated infections are only unique to immunocompromised patient. So very common class ang oral thrush, ang vaginal thrush in weak immune system individuals. But to give you an idea, kapag ang patient class would become positive for HIV, if a patient becomes positive for HIV and it's not treated immediately, it develops into a full-born AIDS. And one of the first diseases that would be present kapag may AIDS ka is fungal diseases such as your candidiasis o yung mga oral thrush nyo. So, yan yung mga unang ma-observe nyo class kapag naka-encounter kayo ng AIDS patient. Now, what are the lab diagnosis class? So, swabs and scrapings for the specimen. Swabs and scraping from superficial lesion. You could even use blood, spinal fluid, tissue biopsies, urine, exudates, material from removed IV catheters. Now, for microscopic exam, you could use tissue biopsies. You could use spinal fluid. So, sa spinal fluid, you need to have it centrifuge, then have it stained with gram stain, or prepare histopathologic slides. Then you would look for pseudohyphae or budding skin cells, or budding cells rather. Skin or nail scrapings are placed in a drop of KOH, and you could also use calcofluor. Now, for culture class, all specimens are cultured on fungal or bacteriologic media at room temp or at 37 degrees. Yeast colonies are examined for the presence of pseudohyphae class. C. albicans is identified by the production of germ tubes or chlamydospores. Now, a unique characteristic of Candida class is that it is very identifiable using a type of agar known as your chrome agar. Now, chrome agar class is a useful commercial media for the rapid identification of several Candida species based on fungal enzymatic action on chromogenic substrates in the medium. Whenever you would hear the word chromogenic class, pag chromogenic dyan, yung result niyan would always be color change. Meaning class, in chrome agar, for every type of Candida species, there is a corresponding color appearance. So, pakitandaan class ha, for Candida albicans, it would typically produce a different color or different shades of the color green. So, if you take a look at the picture, ito yung chrome agar nyo. This green one, this is your Candida albicans. It was able to secrete enzymes, and that enzymes would react on the substrate found in chrome agar, forming a chromogenic change of color wherein it would form green color class. For Candida parapsilosis, it would produce white, pale pink, violet, whitish pink. For Tropicalis class, it would produce dark blue or blue-gray. So take a look at the picture again. Yung Tropicalis nyo would have a color blue, dark blue. Then Lusitania would produce pink, Incospicua pink, Guillermonde would produce pink, purple, or pinkish purple. C. Seferi would produce pink or purple. Lipolitica, purple. Kiefer would produce pink or purple. And Famata would produce white, light pink, or pink color. Si Cruz sa inyo class, this is purple color. So try to memorize the different colors class. Baka lumabas yan sa exam. Now, what are the treatment, prevention, and control for your candida? So we have your thrush and mucocutaneous forms of candidiasis are usually treated with topical nystatin or oral ketoconazole or fluconazole. While your systemic candidiasis class is treated with amphotericin B. So na-notice nyo class no, sa mga previous mycosis, it's always amphotericin B used to treat systemic cases of mycosis. And you would use this class in conjunction with oral flucytosine, fluconazole, or caspofungin. The most important preventive measure is to avoid disturbing the normal balance of microbiota and intact host defense. Candidiasis is not communicable since virtually all persons would harbor the organism. Excuse me. Kaya nga ano siya class, di ba? It's considered a normal flora. It would only cause a disease if the opportunity is given that your body has a weak immune system. Now let's go to the second type of opportunistic mycosis class, yung aspergillosis. So aspergillosis class is a spectrum of disease that may caused by a number of aspergillus species. Now, aspergillus species class are ubiquitous sapros. Pag sinabi mong ubiquitous, when you say ubiquitous class, they are found everywhere. And aspergillosis is known to cause or known to be found or would occur worldwide. Now, the most common human pathogen class is your Aspergillus fumigatus, but many others would include Aspergillus flavus, Aspergillus niger, Aspergillus tertius, and Aspergillus lentulus. Yung common na nai-encounter natin class is yung Aspergillus niger. If you do not clean your bathrooms or if you find black molds in your bathroom, that's a most likely presence. That's the most there's a high likely chance that that fungi or that mold growing in your bathroom tiles is Aspergillus niger. Now, the mold would produce abundant small conidia that are easily aerosolize. So yung conidia na yun class, onting disturbance, a very, very small amount of disturbance will cause those conidia to be spread via aerosols, allowing inhalation, which would lead to severe allergic reaction and in some case, diseases. In immunocompromised patients, because however, those especially those suffering from leukemia, stem cell transplant patients, and individuals taking corticosteroids. Ang corticosteroids yung class, this is known to cause or known to weaken the immune system. So that's a side effect of your corticosteroids. So kapag individuals, mga may leukemia, may stem cell transplant, may corticosteroids sila, the conidia may germinate to produce hyphae that could invade the lungs class and other tissues. So paki-take note yan. The organ that is most affected by aspergillosis is the lungs class. Now, aspergillus infections would typically present in one of four major ways, wherein the findings would be dependent on the immune status of the patient. So, it could represent as an aspergillus pneumonia, a disseminated aspergillosis, an allergic respiratory disease, and in the worst case, it can lead to aspergilloma or the presence of a fungus ball in the lungs. So ito yung fungal ball niya, class. This is your aspergilloma. Ang pinaka-common na effect, yung allergic respiratory disease. Itong allergic respiratory disease na to, class, could occur among healthy people. Excuse me. So take note of that. Now, aspergillus species may grow rapidly, producing aerial hyphae that bear characteristic conidial structures. Long conidiophores with terminal vesicles on which phyalides would produce basipetal chains of conidia. The species are identified according to morphological differences in these structures, including the size, the shape, the texture, and color of the conidia. So take a look at this table class. Wala to sa handouts nyo, so kindly include. I want you to memorize, baka lumabas lang sa quiz or sa exam. Ang i-memorize nyo lang dyan class yung na-mention. Yung flavus, yung niger, yung fumigatus, yung Terios. The rest, no need to memorize. Only those four class. So they have different sizes, they have different color, they have different shapes. And even their conidia would also appear different. So try to memorize the four that was mentioned. If we're going to do this in the laboratory class, it's very difficult to identify aspergillus kasi there are more than 250 species of aspergillus species. So if you want to identify them, madami-dami sila. So you need to memorize all of the characteristics. Now, what are the lab diagnosis class? So for the specimen, you would use sputum, other respiratory tract samples, lung biopsy tissue. For the microscopic exam, you could use KOH, calcofluor white stain, histologic stain. Then for culture, aspergillus species grow within a few days on most media at room temperature. Treatment class. So voriconazole are the preferred treatment for invasive aspergillosis. Casfovungin and amphotericin B are alternatives. No regimen is considered highly effective because the mortality rate of invasive disease is high. Surgical removal of localized lesion is sometimes helpful even in the brain. Construction of rooms with filtered air has been effective in reducing exposure to the environmental conidia. Then let's go to the third one. Your zygomycosis, also known as your mucormycosis class. So this is a mycosis class caused by a group of fungi known as your zygomycetes. This is the most common would include Absidia, Rhizopus, and Mucor. These fungi are ubiquitous saprophytes in soil and are commonly found on bread class. So ubiquitous sila, they are found in bread and many other foodstuff. They could occasionally cause disease in persons suffering from diabetes mellitus and immunocompromised patients receiving corticosteroid therapy. Now, a known effect or a known association with zygomycosis class is those patients suffering from diabetic ketoacidosis. Di ba kapag diabetic ka, you have too much glucose. An effect of too much glucose class can lead to too much ketones. If your body is not able to control too much ketones class, it can lead to this type of disorder, yung diabetic ketoacidosis. And if this is not controlled, diabetic ketoacidosis class can lead to a type of diabetic coma. Makokomatos yung patient po. Now, pulmonary or ribocerebral disease is acquired by inhalation of conidia. The pulmonary form has clinical findings similar to those of other fungal pneumonia. The rhinocerebral form would produce a dramatic clinical syndrome in which agents of zygomycosis show striking invasive capacity. So yung problem kasi sa mucormycosis nyo, problem with mucormycosis kasi class is that it can penetrate into our deep tissue. From the rhinocerebral form, worst case class is that it would penetrate into our deep tissue, penetrating the mucosa of the nose, the sinuses, or even the palate, resulting in ulcerative lesion. And once beyond the mucosa class, they can even go as far as the tissue, the nerves, the blood vessel, and the fascial tissues. So ito yung example of a patient class suffering from mucormycosis. This is a rhinocerebral form and wherein it started penetrating the mucosa of the nose. Pag hindi yan naagapan, pupunta yan sa palate ng patient. In worst case, papasok na siya sa blood, vessels, and sa nerves. Lab diagnosis class. So you're going to look or you're going to perform direct examination or culture of nasal discharge, tissue, or sputum. They will reveal broad hyphae, 10 to 15 millimeter, with an even thickness. So if you take a look at the hyphae class, ang kapal, it's a very thick hyphae with irregular branching and sparse tissue. So this is an example of a tissue sample class na vino. positive for mucormycosis. Now, the fungi would grow rapidly on lab media, producing abundant cottony colony. Identification is based on the sporangial structure. Treatment class would consist of aggressive surgical debridement. So they would start removing the infected tissue surgically. And rapid administration of amphotericin B and control of the underlying disease. So if the patient is diabetic class, gagamutin muna nila yung diabetes. They need to control the underlying disease to prevent the growth or the continuous spread of mucormycosis. Many patients will survive, but there may be a residual effect such as partial facial paralysis or, in worst case, loss of an eye. And let's go to the last opportunistic fungi, yung cryptococcus or yung cryptococcosis nyo. Cryptococcosis class is caused by your Cryptococcus neoformans. So, paki-take note nito, class. This is a yeast class characterized by a thick polysaccharide capsule. Makapal yung capsule niya, class. Ayan, no? Yung nakikita niyong white na yan, yan yung capsule. Tapos itong bilog na to, this is the yeast. Now, the capsule is demonstrated by India ink or nigrosin. Please remember that. Pag anong stain yung nagde-demonstrate ng capsule ng Cryptococcus nyo, it's your India ink or nigrosin. They are found in nature, especially pigeon and bat droppings. They are cultured on SDA without cyclohexamide. Could be cultured in bird seed, niger seed, or staves media. It is urease, inositol positive, and nitrate reduction negative. It is known to form the so-called starburst pattern on gram stain. So please remember those. So that ends the entire mycology class. These are the references. Thank you.